Hi, everyone. Emil here, co-founder of Kapa.ai. Today on the Kappa podcast, I'm joined by Wade Christensen, the PM behind Twilio's Docs platform and the massive overhaul you undertook sometime last year. I would love to get into all things Ask Your Developer, but perhaps before that, Wade, I'd be curious to get your take on this whole Docs platform migration you led last year and the process and where you essentially landed up now and what that's caused for Twilio.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Happy to chat about all of it. Yeah, it sounds great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a big migration moving from our previous platform to one we built internally, and so we were kind of, as they say, building the plane or flying the plane as you build it. And so it did take. It's been a year ago now since we kind of finally did it's all done. We've moved it all. Big celebratory kind of milestone there. But that took about a year. I don't know, 9 months, something like that, to move all of that. So there's a lot of documentation for Twilio, a lot of products, that kind of thing, and yeah, it was a fun challenge. The old platform had honestly served us really well. I like to tell people it was like a victim of its own, success. It was really good, but that meant anything anyone could think to load into it did, and we're all familiar with content debt and tech debt, and it just eventually became too much, and decided to move on to a Docs as code kind of approach for our content writers and stuff. It's been really positive. The last year we've been working out, as you might imagine, with a big migration and building it as we were moving it. We didn't get everything done that we would have liked to in the process, other than had a little bit of time to clean up, polish some edges, all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. And do you feel where it is today, it's kind of unlocked some of the possibilities you hoped it was able to actually do when you originally set out the vision for kind of moving to the new Docs platform?
Yeah, I think so. And it's still, I like to think of it as it is that potential piece, and there's still so much to unlock, which is really nice. I think we were in a place where, like I said, the old platform served us really well for a long time, but then as those things go, it just became so hard to do anything other than maintenance. And now we're in a really good spot where we can hear what our authors are saying, hey, we need this to function differently, or it would be really great if we could get, this sort of thing. And we can go do that. It's not some big headache to make that happen and unwind, 5 other things and hope, the change doesn't ripple through, a bunch of other stuff with these unintended consequences. So just kind of that basic, let's just get out of this mountain of debt has been really helpful. Mountain of tech debt there. And I think just having the team able to have some mature engineering processes and things like that to enable that stuff just makes it all possible. So I think we are in a really good spot with it. We're able to just kind of, be agile and move and do the things the team needs. So I wouldn't say we've done all of them yet, but just we can, and that feels so good. Yeah.
That's nice. As long as there's not a big replatforming now set up around the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Kind of brings up another topic I really wanted to get your perspective on, Wade. I think a question a lot of folks that care about Docs often think about is how you actually measure the kind of success of when your Docs are working. Because at the end of the day, depending on your implementation, right, it is a static website. Folks are browsing. You can do kind of anonymous analytics and tracking on there. Some folks have logged-in experiences for their Docs as well that allow for maybe slightly more high-fidelity ways of kind of tracking. But I'm curious to get your maybe even just high-level take on when you think, oh man, Docs are working. What are some of the signals you kind of look out for there?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's one of the hardest questions I think for Docs teams in general. There's always I feel like there's always at least a talk at Write the Docs about
Right.
about this kind of stuff. The way I think about it in some ways, documentation is, it's not a unique property, but it's different than, the way I think about it is like it's different than, say, a blog or some of the other marketing pages or some of these, like what I would think of as like lead gen properties, where you're trying to get people into the top of the funnel and think about like, just get interest, show people what's possible. The audience for the docs, for developer docs in particular, you're sort of there a little bit. You're already past that point. You kind of know why you're there. Speaking very broadly, not always, but the audience in general, I think, has a better sense of what they're there to do. And I think the developer audience in particular doesn't want to be marketed at. Like they're there to get a task done, right? Like this is kind of that jobs to be done thing, right? And they're there with a goal, and so you want to help them achieve that goal as quickly as possible. And so some of the things that you might measure for like another marketing site or for a blog or something are, I think, relevant and can give you some signal, but maybe are not as helpful as things like, and there are so many ways you could measure this. Like I always think of this too as like, what's the best proxy for this behavior we can get to? But did they actually launch the thing that they were trying to build? Did they, where did they get stuck? Where did they drop off in the flow through the documentation, that kind of thing? It's also, I think, helpful to get so we have a feedback widget, and we ended up redesigning that as part of this migration to the new platform as well. It used to be 1 to 5 stars, and you could leave a comment. And now I'm gonna blank on like what all the fields were in there. But my feeling about that was like, if you just kind of looked at it like high level, it felt like I'm getting 1 star or 5 stars. Like people either love it or they're really frustrated by something, and that something might be broken information in the docs, wrong information. It might just be, I wish the product behaved in a way that it doesn't, or behaved differently. And so there were a few things there that we took out of that and decided, okay, let's make this a thumbs up, thumbs down. Like if the feedback is going to be closer to binary, like this is working or it's not working, let's just embrace that. A 3-star review on a docs page is like, without more qualitative feedback, is not super helpful, because you're just kind of guessing like, what was mediocre about this page? It's really hard to know. And then we redesigned the fields in there. There's still a comment. You can leave a comment, and that stuff is really helpful. And we also, if you were to go in there and give a thumbs up, thumbs down, you get a branched experience. So you can say, this is feedback about the documentation itself or about the product. So that way we can funnel that information to wherever it's actionable. Because, we would see that sort of thing come in where someone would be frustrated or really happy, either way, but the feedback was not something the docs writers could do much about, right? It would be like, this API is amazing and it's doing, or it keeps failing here and I don't know why. And it was just something that the product and engineering teams would need to address. And so we were like, how can we just funnel that directly to them? Because it's really valuable to get that customer feedback there. So I think that kind of thing, and then what we can do with that data, we're still kind of working some of that out, like what is the right way to aggregate this and make sense of it. And of course the comments are always super helpful, because then the person's telling you really what was on their mind. But that's some way for us to kind of key in on what is the overall view of this page, but also like what is relevant really specifically to the documentation rather than the product it's documenting. So we did some thinking around that. But yeah, it's always tough and changing, hard to know like what is successful about the docs. But you just do your best. Like what is, I like to also think of it as like, what is healthy documentation? How is it performing well? But yeah, it's tough.
I really appreciate those thoughts, and if anything, it just echoes, I think, what what is quite common to hear at a place like Write the Docs, right? A take I heard recently is you can almost come up with like a counter argument for every single metric that relates to tracking docs too, right? I think like the classic one is if you apply just like blank marketing metrics and you're like, hey, let's really optimize for like time on a single page, right? Well, is it a good thing or a bad thing that like a dev is spending 10 minutes on your like getting started site? Like ideally they just spend 30 seconds and then go do, versus, do they spend 10 minutes deeply engaging with it because it's great content? And so it's very hard to like say in the aggregate, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always come back to like with pretty much anything, who is the audience and like what are they really trying to do? Because like you say,
Yeah.
you can measure the wrong thing, get sent down the wrong path, and then you make things worse. As unintended consequences of that. So.
That's cool. No, I appreciate the thoughts, Wade. And that maybe brings us to, I think, the final topic that I'm sure you get asked all the time, but like, I guess we're in the middle of a crazy transition where all of a sudden humans aren't the only people that are consuming docs, whether it's, cursor agent, whether it's Claude code, whether it's folks, using kind of the Stripe way of copy, text to markdown and then pasting it into an LLM to use and so on. Like I'm really curious just to pause there to hear your reflections. How are you thinking about like docs and AI and optimizing your docs, if at all, for LLMs?
Yeah, it's an exciting, interesting time. I tell people, it feels like a job just to keep up with everything that's happening right now. Which is fun. It's part of what I enjoy about just like working in tech in general. It's like it's never stagnant, and like this time maybe more than ever, it's all changing really quickly. So yeah, we're thinking about this a lot, and seeing what everyone's doing. I think my hunch is like as when I think about like my own workflows if I'm writing code, which I'm not an engineer, but do enjoy my hobby projects and that kind of thing. What really stuck out to me when Copilot first came, GitHub Copilot stuck in VS Code, I was like, oh, I don't have to go anywhere else. Like that was half the value to me, was that I didn't have to break the workflow that I was already in. I could just grab the information I needed. And, I think we're calling this now zero click experience, right? And so I think that's going to be more and more common. I don't see a reason it wouldn't be. If you can grab the information, and, it might even, as we're saying, it's like getting more and more sophisticated. It's getting better at doing these things. Like maybe you don't even need to ask it the questions all the time. It's generating the code for you. But that is all happening where the developer is working. Like I know this is the like the year of the agent. My head is still with the like human in the loop and assistant kind of Copilot experience for a lot of engineering tasks. And I think those. That kind of builder audience is, of course, the one we're trying to address at Twilio. And I think what's really helpful, like I say, there's just like being in the workflow. And so the documentation then becomes like this source, but there's now like another interface to it. So like they don't go to the doc site to get that information, but that information is still like the vetted source. It's like it's not hallucinated, it's not it's up to date, all of that good stuff. So how do you get that in the context? And so we've been thinking about that a lot. Of course MCP was like huge, like took off. I feel like that was half my mental space for months was just MCP and what's happening with it and when is remote MCP coming and all of that kind of stuff. So thinking about that sort of stuff too. But yeah, I feel like there's so much happening right now in a lot of different approaches that like, you kind of have to do some of the like LLMs.tech stuff to just kind of help, help these tools find the information. But then there's also kind of that other piece, which is how do you get into the tools people are in? So I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not talking in circles or rambling too much.
No, not at all.
Some sense.
Not at all. I think it's really interesting, and if anything, I think it's also a sign of the times. Right? There's just so much going on, and it's hard to put a finger on I think where all of this is going to converge in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And I think all you can do is check Hacker News and Twitter no more than once a day, and then get back to doing real work and trying to, I guess you're in the fortunate position you can ask your developer right to get their take on what the tooling that you can build and kind of support to I guess empower their workflows to build things faster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as much as things are changing and it's moving really fast, like the solution, or at least the path to good solutions, is still pretty much the same, right? Like, talk to your customers. What are they actually doing? What do they want? What do they need? Where are they working? And then work backward from there, like solve their real problems. So it's just that, like, the opportunities to solve those problems in elegant ways are really rapidly expanding, which is exciting and fun.
Isn't that a nice note to end things on too?
Yeah.
just talk to your users.
Yeah, right.
And work backwards. Cool, Wade. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast, and let's end things there.
Great. Yeah, thank you. It was great joining, and I appreciate it.
Amazing. Where can folks find out more if they want to learn about the Twilio Developer Platform and follow you?
Yeah, definitely check out the Twilio blog. We'll be posting more stuff there about just what we're doing, some of how we're thinking about how we want to approach AI stuff, all of that. So definitely check out the Twilio blog there. And for me, I'm not super active on social media. I'll say, like, I lurk to be informed, but I rarely post. But I'm kind of all over as Wade C9N, because Wade Christensen is taken everywhere. So if you want, but yeah, I'm not super active.
All good. Well, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Wade.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
good
you.
one.